Friends, welcome to my channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It's not difficult for you, but it's nice for me, and we're starting. The best thing about going to my wife's corporate party was that I had the opportunity to drive my Challenger. The worst part was that the faster I drove, the faster I got there. The party was held in the company's house, and there was a good 30-kilometer stretch of road leading to it. No stop signs, no traffic lights, no traffic jams. Just an open road waiting for the Challenger to do its job. This also meant the absence of gas stations and shops. Donna and I have been estranged from each other since both our daughters got married. I had hoped for the opposite, but it was not to be. Donna insisted that I accompany her to the event, even though I made it clear that I didn't want to go. Previously, she walked alone. Donna liked to drink, but I didn't. I used to drink beer sometimes. She was also a socialite, and I wasn't. For the last year, I suspected that she was having an affair. At that moment, I didn't care. I think that was one of the reasons we were moving away from each other. I was waiting for the right moment, and I was just looking for a way out of an unpleasant relationship. I needed a way to end our marriage. I have to admit that I'm probably the reason my wife decided to look for greener pastures. I am, so to speak, a strange type of minimalist. I grew up in a very poor family. My brothers and I had much less than most kids our age, and by that I mean things like bicycles, toys, pets, fancy electronic gadgets, and the like. It was almost like being Amish without religion. I wasn't stupid, and I fully understood how the normal world works, but I couldn't bring myself to accept it. I knew it was important not to get into debt. It was important to pay your bills, and it would also be wise to save something for retirement. To live a comfortable minimalist life, you don't have to be a fanatic, but you have to keep yourself in control. By allowing yourself a few indulgences, you can seem normal to most people. My biggest weakness was my marriage and family. It was really hard for me to find a woman who I felt could tolerate my eccentricity and who could accept my uniqueness. Donna was from the same background as me and used to lead a modest lifestyle. She didn't take it the way I did, but she could tolerate it. The longer we were married, the more she seemed to get back to normal. She was getting less frugal and more run-of-the-mill. I didn't like it, but I understood, especially after the girls were born. So that we wouldn't seem strange, we bought a small, practical house and started wearing better clothes. Donna did her hair from time to time and became quite adept at self-care and makeup. We bought 2 smartphones of last year's models. When the girls grew up, Donna started working. It was an office job with a minimum wage. Transportation was necessary, so we bought her a small Honda, the same as mine. Her salary was barely enough to cover car expenses, lunches, and her new wardrobe. It wasn't much, but I was happy with that too. My name is William Smith. It's the most common name a person can have. I work as a parts assembler for a local company that manufactures industrial compressors. The work is very monotonous, but I like it. I was satisfied with both the position and the salary. From time to time, I was offered a promotion, but I refused. I didn't tell Donna. My second indulgence was that I was hiding from my wife. I felt it would be wise to save for retirement. At every opportunity, I bought 1-ounce gold Krugerrands. I had more than 30 of them in my basement safe, and I was just getting started. My last indulgence was a 1970 Challenger. My older brother John died working on an offshore oil platform. He left me the Challenger in his will. I could support him myself, but the insurance premiums were killer. Donna succeeded while working at Gilbert. She regularly received salary increases and promotions. During the first year, she talked quite a lot about her work, but then it started to fade away. Now she rarely mentions anything about her job or the people she works with. I knew something was wrong, but I couldn't figure out what it was. I was hoping to get a better idea of what's going on tonight. The company meeting was something of a retreat. It was a weekend event. I felt out of place even coming to it. I've met with all of her colleagues at one time or another, and I didn't like any of them. We pulled off the interstate at Holbrook, and I was finally able to let the Challenger accelerate. She reacted exactly as I expected. Donna was uncomfortable with the speed, but she held her tongue. Yes, I did exceed the speed limit. No, I didn't care. Bill, why the rush? We have enough time to get there. Why don't you slow down a bit? I'm not eager to get there. You know damn well I didn't want to go at all. I'm just using this time to clean the engine. The car needs to run from time to time. Please try not to spoil my mood. This weekend is important for my career. Mrs. Simpson said it would be important for you to be here too. Marge Simpson was the wife of company president Glenn Robertson Simpson. It was old money and old business. Why? What do you mean? Why is it important for me to attend this corporate event? I don't understand. Bill, it is necessary that you fully understand my new position in the company, so that you can give me the support I need to do my job. I still don't understand. I'm sure Mrs. Simpson will be able to explain it to you when we get there. I've always supported you in the past. Why is everything different now? There are many unique responsibilities in my new position. Marge said that you should get to know them gradually so that you can fully understand them. It may be hard for you to understand at first, but she assured me that you would be thrilled. By the time we got to the lodge, my adrenaline was pumping. It didn't take a genius to figure out what Donna was trying to say. The weekend promised to be interesting. When we arrived, Donna entered the lodge, leaving me to carry the bags. I felt like I was being put in my place. Hey, nice wheels, Mr. Smith. What's it? The 70s or the 71st? It was Toby Wallace, the company's employee boy. Hi, Toby. How are you? This is the 70s. Toby introduced me to his wife, Bonnie. They were sitting on the front porch, but it seemed like everyone else was inside. I looked around the parking lot and assumed there were about 16 cars and one battered old truck at the end of the parking lot. We spent the next 5 minutes discussing the Challenger. What are you doing outside? Why aren't you and Bonnie inside with the people? This is not our type of visitor, Mr. Smith. We were hoping to leave early, but Mrs. Simpson insists that we stay. We got up early today to help organize everything. All the caterers left about an hour ago. You'll have to explain. What's happening? Something fishy, but I don't know exactly what it is. I don't want to upset you, but I think it has something to do with your wife. Will you stay all weekend? No. That's why I parked my truck on the side of the road, so I wouldn't have to worry about getting out later. It was getting more interesting by the minute. Well, I'd better take this to our room. Let me know before you leave. Okay. Of course. Mr. Smith, be careful. Don't do anything stupid. Fortunately, they were just 2 small carry-on bags. When I entered the lodge, Mrs. Simpson caught my eye, smiled and waved. Donna was waiting for me at the top of the stairs and looked a little annoyed that I hadn't come in for so long. It's about time, Bill. We have a few hours to prepare for the evening. Get yourself cleaned up and put on something presentable. It's going to be a special evening, and I want everything to be perfect. If you don't mind, I'm going to take a little walk around the house to calm down. I'll be back in a while. I noticed that a slight smirk appeared on my face as I left the room. It was a little chilly, which made my walk a little more pleasant. As I estimated, there really were 16 cars. They were mostly Mercedes, a few Jaguars, and a Lexus. 4 of the cars had license plates from other states. I was a little confused trying to figure out how a woman in my wife's position could meet the demands of people of this caliber. Or rather, we were definitely out of our class. Something was wrong. I noticed that Toby and Bonnie were loading their bags into the truck. I waved at them and came over to chat for a while. I see Mrs. Simpson has decided to let you go. Not really. We're kind of sneaking out. I don't feel comfortable here, Mr. Smith. Toby thought maybe we should stay, but I talked him out of it. Bonnie hastened to add, could you do me a little favor and stay here until the evening buffet is over? I'm a little worried too, and I'd appreciate it. I have no idea what's going on, but I don't like it. Great minds think alike. Isn't that right, Bonnie? She blushed slightly at my pathetic attempt at a joke. I think we can do it. I think I'll like Toby. I really dressed up the way my wife insisted. Before we reached the buffet, our hostess took my hand and led me to a quiet corner. We are so glad that you decided to come tonight to support Donna. This is a big step in her career, and it's important that she gets your full support. The increase in wages and benefits is very significant, and I'm sure you'll be pleased with it. I'm sorry to ask, but what kind of promotion are we talking about? Donna was a little evasive. When I ask her about it, she usually just waves me off and tells me to wait until the evening. There's nothing to worry about, William. I think she just wants to surprise you. You haven't answered my question. There is no official title. I think you could just say that she's a personal assistant. I understand. Well, the buffet looks good. Thanks for the explanation, Mrs. Simpson. Marge. Please call me Marge. I spent the next hour or so trying out everything on the tables. Donna was busy talking to important people, so Toby, Bonnie, and I were able to spend a little more time together. We were just finishing up when Mrs. Simpson came over. William, Donna said that you brought your little sports car with you tonight. I was wondering if you'd mind if we had a few drinks? I smiled and nodded my head. There are 3 cases of wine in the store in Holbrook. They've already been paid for, so all you have to do is come and get them. There shouldn't be any problems, but if there are, just call me. Be sure to bring your phone with you. I'd be glad to help, Marge. I'll let Donna know and hit the road. As she was leaving, I looked at Toby. I'll meet you outside in 5 minutes. Donna just smiled when I told her that Mrs. Simpson had asked me to help. Her only comment was, "Don't forget your phone." Interestingly, they were both worried about the same thing. Toby, I need a favor. He smiled when I tossed him the keys to the Challenger. Are you serious? Take it to Holbrook and pick up 3 cases of wine at the store for Mrs. Simpson. I have a feeling that there may be some kind of problem that will lead to a delay, if you know what I mean. Toby smiled and nodded. Here's my phone. Just put it on the dashboard. If it rings, don't answer it. Whatever you do, don't turn it off. Any questions? How long do you want us to be away? At least 2 hours and a share of gasoline before heading back to the lodge. Enjoy it. It was a little chilly outside, but at least I had the foresight to put on a comfortable jacket. Now all I had to do was wait and watch. From various places on the back porch, you could see most of the house from the inside. A thermos of coffee would have been nice, but I hadn't planned that far ahead. I found a convenient place from where I could look inside and not be noticed. Donna seemed to be the center of attention. I still didn't know why, but I had a good idea. She smiled, laughed, and chatted like a movie star. About 20 minutes later, Mrs. Simpson and Donna looked closely at Donna's cell phone. I knew exactly what they were doing, checking my location. Well, thanks to Toby, I'm almost at Holbrook. They both smiled as Mrs. Simpson raised her hand and began to speak. Unfortunately, I couldn't make out what was being said, but everyone in the room seemed to quietly approve of what they had heard. It was like a little applause. Glenn Robertson Simpson came over and took Donna's hand. They started up the main staircase and stopped. He raised his hands and hers in the air, as if in a victory salute, and they both laughed. I could hear the cheers in the room as they went up the stairs. I still had about an hour and a half left before the Challenger returned. I decided to take my time and have some fun. I always had my trusty folding knife with me. It was a gift from my daughters about 10 years ago. It was good steel, and it had a sharp edge. I examined my target area and decided that I would start with the cars closest to the house. I took my time. There was no rush. I carefully put each valve stem in my jacket pocket. I didn't want to lose anything, and I didn't want to clog up the Simpsons' driveway. 16 machines and 64 valve rods. I had almost an hour to spare. What to do? What else can I do? 4 cars were locked. All the others were open. So I started again with the one closest to the lodge and took off the registration forms. Some were wearing visors, but most were in glove boxes. I had no idea what I was going to do with them, but I thought they might be useful in the future. I had to wait another half hour for Toby to come back. I decided that the valve rods on the spare tires should also be removed. Since I had access to the cars, I also had access to the trunks. 20 minutes later, I had 10 more valve rods. 2 cars didn't have spare tires. I know it was petty and childish, but it gave me a little satisfaction. I'm not a big fan of confrontation, so anything I did or intended to do would be low and mean. I had no problems with self-esteem, so I didn't feel the need to appear courageous or heroic. I'm going to let all the alpha males take over this role. 20 minutes later, the Challenger returned. Toby and Bonnie both seemed to enjoy the trip. He confirmed that there was indeed a delay in the store, as I expected, and it seemed to have been planned in advance. While they were gone, there were no calls on my mobile. I turned it off and took out the SIM card. They couldn't wait to get home. I thanked Toby, wished him a safe journey, and strongly recommended that he find another job as soon as possible. I'm sure the crates of wine were quite expensive. The problem was easy to solve. I just put all 3 boxes on the porch of the house. In no way did I want them to accuse me of stealing anything. The trip home was relaxing. There wasn't much in the house that was important to me. A few personal papers, my laptop, and my Krugerrands. I was originally going to set fire to the house before I left, but that would have made Donna a martyr. I didn't want to do that. I was on the road again for 2 hours. I didn't feel the need to leave a traditional note or an engagement ring. Let her figure it out for herself. I was in no hurry and had no destination in mind. I drove for 2 days. It was Monday morning when I called work and warned. I asked for my last check to be sent to my parents' house in Carlisle. They were unhappy that I quit without prior notice. I apologized, but did not give an explanation. You can always count on a good breakfast at the diner. On the way, I bought a local newspaper for merchandisers and found an interesting advertisement about finding an assistant for a local supermarket. They were looking for a man who would fill the shelves from 10 at night to 6 in the morning. After breakfast, I stopped by the supermarket. It was in the eclectic old Chattanooga neighborhood. I spent the next hour driving around the neighborhood. There were many old craftsman cottages and several mobile homes in the immediate vicinity. I could have been happy in a small trailer, but I was hoping for a step forward. Then I accidentally came across a sign offering to rent an apartment above the garage. I wasn't interested in working in a supermarket yet, but I didn't want to lose my apartment in the garage. The garage was not included in the price, but when I offered $50 a month more rent, they agreed. It was a small one-bedroom apartment with only half a bathroom. It had some kind of furniture, a bed, a chest of drawers, a table and chairs. The rent was right and the location was right, so I rented it. I'll solve the bathroom problem later. At least I had a home for the challenger. The situation in the supermarket was a little different. They had a lot of takers, but not so many that they felt comfortable leaving them alone at night in the store. I explained my situation to the owner and didn't mince words. The decision to hire me was made when I offered to work behind closed doors, without any benefits and for $1 less than they wanted to pay. They didn't even ask for my social security number. I was happy, and they were happy. It was a 10-minute walk from the apartment. I spent the rest of the day settling into my new home. The landlord gave me the access code to his internet, which, in my opinion, was not bad. After a short trip to the local shopping center, I had some kitchen utensils and a small microwave oven. I also bought bed linen and cleaning products. That night, I canceled my life insurance policies. I decided not to mess with bank or credit cards. What could harm her? Both of our daughters were now married. It made it a little easier for me to leave. There are no grandchildren yet, but I'm sure it won't last long. I called my daughter Laura and told her that I was fine. I asked her to be ready to help her mother if necessary. Laura knew I was gone, but Donna didn't give her any other information. She promised to inform her sister Linda. I deleted all calls from my wife and turned it off again. I needed to take a shower. Maybe tomorrow. Not everything was perfect. I needed to find a safe place for my gold. I realized that what I had was not considered significant, but it was important to me. For some strange reason, I ended up purchasing a safe deposit box in Huntsville, Alabama. I was hoping they wouldn't be able to connect this to me in Chattanooga. Of course, I was completely wrong, but I felt that at least I tried. It was almost 2 hours away, but I didn't mind. The garage door in the apartment was pretty secure, but I installed a new latch and a heavy-duty lock, just to make sure. I had to protect my car. It didn't take me long to get used to my new job. A man worked with me for the first 3 evenings, and then they left me alone. I didn't have to do anything in the grocery or meat department. The biggest problem was in the frozen food department. After the first 2 weeks, I had everything under control. For $20 in advance and $10 a month, I purchased a fitness subscription that solved my shower problem. The big disadvantage was that I had to tell them the credit card number. I had to make another trip to Huntsville to get a credit card from my new bank. I was beginning to realize how difficult it was to completely disconnect from the network. Some changes were needed. I had no idea how hard Donna would try to find me, or if she would try at all. To hell with it all. I will deal with this problem when it arises. In the blink of an eye, I got used to the routine. I started working at 10 in the evening and finished at 6. It was a 20-minute jog or a 30-minute walk to the fitness center. Initially, I joined mainly just for the shower, but gradually I started using other simulators. By the end of the first month, I was working out in the gym for almost 2 hours every day. I felt better and also lost some weight. I never considered myself heavy, but I was a little flabby. It was nice to get back to the routine. I was comfortable in my new job, and I liked it. It was monotonous, but at the same time different. It's hard to explain, but I'm sure you'll understand what I mean. I did my job, and they left me alone. The gym was also a good choice. In no time, I decided which exercises I liked and which ones I should avoid. I found that I didn't get any pleasure from working with a heavy weight. Since I was running for training every day, I wasn't interested in treadmills. I started every day with a round-robin workout. It took about 30 minutes. Then I spent 20 minutes on a rowing machine, 20 minutes on a stepper, and ended up riding a vertical bike for 20 minutes. I still didn't have a TV, but I bought a used desktop computer with a good-sized monitor. My daily entertainment consisted mainly of videos on YouTube. I didn't cook much, but I found that my eating habits had changed a bit. Although this was not my intention, I found myself leaning towards the keto diet. Combining this with my irregular working day, I realized that I was also a little hungry. After 3 months, I felt better and lost weight. It's time to call my daughters again. This time I called Linda. Hello, Linda, this is your dad. Well, it's about time. We were all worried about you. Are you okay? Yes, I'm great. Don't worry about me. I've always been able to take care of myself. I'm just calling to make sure your mom is okay. Mom's doing great. It looks like she got a promotion at work and loves her job. However, she is very angry with you. She said that you dumped her at her promotion celebration and then left home like a resentful little boy. These are the words she used. She said you were jealous of her success. Well, I'm sorry, but I can't add anything to that. Until she's ready to tell you the truth, that's all I have. She said that things are a little tight without your income, but she can handle a promotion. Well, I'm happy for her. Has she told you anything about her new job? Only that she earns more money and can travel a lot. I didn't answer. After a short pause, Linda spoke again. Are you coming home for Christmas? I don't think so. I'll try to send something for you and Laura. We don't need anything, and we don't want anything, Dad. We'd rather you were here. Sorry about that. It's time for me to go. Say hello to Laura for me. While I felt a little depressed, I got the feeling that my daughters didn't understand the situation and believed that I was the cause of all the problems. I was unhappy about it, but I didn't feel I had to explain myself. It was obvious that there was no remorse on my wife's part. I found myself getting a little bit bitter. From what my daughter said, Donna was doing fine without me. I still didn't understand why she wanted me to be at home. I finished my box of black and tan and spent the weekend feeling depressed. My beer consumption was growing. As the weeks went by, I found that things were getting better. I was doing well at work, and I got a promotion I didn't expect. They gave me complete freedom of action as far as my duties were concerned, and in a very short time I simplified and improved the replenishment system. I provided a weekly report that they used to determine stock levels and reordering intervals. The store's computer system as a whole has already done this, but it seems they appreciated the manual input. My living conditions were ideal in my situation and well within my budget. My weight dropped, and I started to build muscle. In the right light, I could make out a six-pack on my stomach. I had stopped shaving, and now I had thick hair, long enough to gather it into a small ponytail. My whole image seemed to have changed, and I seemed a little intimidating. My gym workouts were getting easier and a little longer. An unexpected side effect was that I also made some friends at the gym. They weren't really friends, but rather acquaintances. I was very careful with female rats in the gym because I didn't want any problems with indecent behavior. It didn't matter with the guys. In fact, we regularly made fun of each other. However, one very unusual alliance has emerged. Her name was Harry, or at least that's what everyone called her. She wasn't very friendly and rarely talked to anyone. I turned out to be an exception. She came every morning and worked steadily for at least 2 hours. It was an intense workout, not an elaborate yoga-style routine. I assumed she was about 45 or so. She looked stern and always wore sweatpants and a hoodie. All the other women showed off their bodies in tight latex and revealing outfits. Not Harry. I was thoroughly bullied because I was the only male in the whole cage that she talked to or even looked at. I didn't encourage her, but I didn't push her away in any way. To be honest, I was a little flattered. Several months have passed. and I have not contacted either my daughters or my wife. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. I made several trips to Huntsville to add to my collection of Krugerrands. Then everything started to change. William, can I talk to you for a minute? This was not the usual beginning of a conversation with Harry. She called me William, while all the guys used Bill. Come to think of it, she had never addressed me by my first name before. Of course. No problem. Is there anything I can help you with? Actually, yes. We both sat down on a bench and made ourselves comfortable. I have a corporate event that I have to attend on Friday evening, and I need an escort. I'll take care of all the expenses, and I just need you to come with me. I noticed that you don't drive a car, so I'll also provide transportation. If necessary, I can reimburse you for your expenses. I hesitated, and she quickly realized it. I'm sorry. Did I do or say something wrong? No, not at all. It's just that I have a few skeletons in my closet, so to speak. If you can get around them, I'll be happy to help you. Good. What's the problem? First of all, I'm married. Oh, shit. You never mentioned your wife. I think that's the whole point. No, not at all. I just wanted you to know in advance. I haven't seen or spoken to my wife in over 9 months. I don't even know if I'm still married. Have you filed for divorce or separation? No. The next problem? I don't have anything suitable to wear. No suit, no jacket, no shirts, no ordinary shoes. I don't use any of this, so I don't have it. No problem. I can take care of it. That's why I'm asking a week in advance. I work at night, but I think I can relax in the evening without any problems. I'm glad you solved this problem. She smiled when she said that. What else? Do you want me to shave? William, I like your beard and your hair, but to be honest, you're a little disheveled. Would you mind if my stylist examined you on Friday afternoon? A stylist? She smiled, and I groaned and nodded that everything was fine. That's how my relationship with Harry, professionally known as Harriet Parker, a lawyer, began. On Tuesday, I found myself in Jos A. Vapks. It's not really a high-class institution, but it's a step above anything I've ever been to. Harry had arranged for my visit in advance. As a result, I had 2 pairs of trousers and 2 sports jackets. They complemented everything with a pair of shirts and a few ties. I did a little bit of work by adding 2 stand-up collared shirts to the stack. I've always liked them, and I thought they would look good with sports jackets. Harry paid for everything in advance. On the way home, I bought a new pair of decent shoes and some underwear. I needed new underwear because of my recent weight loss. The shoes were moccasin style, but still stylish. My visit to the stylist on Friday went well. The guy who looked after me was easy to get along with, and he did a good job. He left me with a short, neatly trimmed beard and turned my ponytail into a kind of short, modified pigtail. I do not know the exact term, but it was long at the end. He assured me that it would be much easier to maintain it. I liked it. He didn't talk much about Harry, but he said I was lucky. Harry arrived at the apartment at 6 o'clock sharp. She didn't get out of the car, but she honked her horn briefly. The Lexus looked out of place in my neighborhood. I chose a gray jacket and a gray turtleneck. I thought I looked pretty good, but I don't have a guideline. I was grateful that she was driving because I was not well versed in the city. Harry, before we go, could you explain exactly what I should or shouldn't do tonight? The first hour or so will probably be devoted to communication. You don't have to get involved in all this. Most of the people here are going to be big-feeling snobs that you don't want to have anything to do with. Avoid them if you can. Most importantly, I want you to stay close to me and keep your friends away. Try not to be conspicuous, but also don't let any of them nudge you. Make sure that I always have a drink in my hand, ginger ale or mineral water. Be friendly and accommodating. And whatever you do, don't lose your cool. In fact, you are a candy. Make them think we're a couple. I've never considered myself that kind of guy. I don't have much experience with this kind of thing. Can you handle it? Of course. Ouch. Will there be any food? In about an hour, each of us will receive a plate of $500 rubber chicken and listen to several speeches. When this is over, the gift distribution will continue. Yes. By the way, you look good. It was at that moment that I realized I hadn't complimented her dress or hairstyle. I was really out of my depth. The first part of the evening went exactly as she explained. I found that my role turned out to be a little easier than I expected. The room was full of single men, and they were all in expensive suits and with big watches. Harry looked really good, and most of them knew she wasn't married. Quite a few of them took the time to come over and have a little chat with her. They were probing the ground, so to speak. I found myself looking at them with narrowed eyes, like Charles Bronson. Surprisingly, it worked. Every time I left her side to refresh her drink, another vulture swooped in. Several people brought her drinks, which she quietly handed over to me to dispose of. Harry looked at me a couple of times and kind of smiled. Sort of. We were finally able to sit down. 300 chicken dinners appeared out of nowhere. The plate of food was pathetic. I'm not a picky eater, but this was different. I kept thinking about the $500. Harry sort of leaned towards me. William, do you want to demolish this place? She tried to speak with a Bogart accent, but it didn't work out. I didn't answer her. I just got up, took her hand, and we quietly left. I don't think anyone even noticed. When we pulled into the garage, she kicked off her shoes and threw me the keys to the Lexus. Find us some real food, William. 20 minutes later, we were at Willie's Hillbilly. Each of us had a full plate and a bottle of beer. She was familiar with Tabasco. We both ignored the French fries. The bibs were gladly accepted. While we were eating, I noticed one unusual thing. Her evening dress had long sleeves. Most women's dresses had short sleeves or no sleeves at all. She was also still barefoot, and it didn't seem to bother her at all. Everything quickly returned to normal. My evening with Harry was pleasant, although it did not end in any intimacy. We continued our normal relationship at the gym. 3 weeks later, Harry had another event that required an escort. Of course, I agreed. I felt obligated to explain the situation to my boss, and he found it quite funny. Under the circumstances, he told me that there was no need to ask for permission to take time off, but just leave him a note. He more or less told me that I was responsible for my own time and should manage it accordingly. Harry's daily workouts at the gym were quite intense. She had an elevated pulse and was sweating quite a lot. She was always fully dressed. Most of the female rats in the gym wore sports bras and shorts. Harry wore hoodies and long trousers. It seemed pointless, but I wasn't going to bring it up. Our second night was similar to the first, except there was no food and there was more booze. More booze meant more lizards were prowling around. Every other guy who approached her brought a fresh drink. I spent most of the evening collecting and disposing of unwanted glasses. One of the most obnoxious guys finally got to me. I took him aside and quietly told him that if he molested my fiancée again, I would polish his face. He disappeared for the rest of the evening. Like many other scum, I had no idea that I had become so threatening. After the meeting, we went to get sushi, but ended up eating $40 worth of sashimi. It was another fun platonic evening. 2 days later, Harry surprised me when I was rowing. Why didn't you tell me we were engaged? Yesterday, I was a little confused when some of my work colleagues asked me about it. She didn't wait for an answer, but she smiled. I called Laura. She said Donna was avoiding her and Linda. All Laura knew was that Donna traveled a lot and that people regularly stayed at her house overnight. I asked her if her mother had filed for divorce, and she had no idea. It had been weeks since he and Linda had last spoken. For some reason, I got angry. The more bottles I emptied, the worse it got. The next morning, I received one of the fixed-price boxes in the mail and sent 74 valve rods to Glenn Simpson of Gilbert. I have attached a short note. Thanks for a fun evening. It's been over a year since the party, but I was pretty sure he'd remember it. I skipped the gym that day. I didn't want to study with a hangover. The next day, Harry actually gave me a third-degree interrogation. I promised to explain everything to her the next time we had dinner together. She picked me up at 6 in the evening. Harry took me to the steakhouse. This is the first time I've been to a place like this. I really dressed up nicely for her. She listened calmly and did not make judgments all evening. I returned to my apartment just in time for the start of the work shift. The next day at the gym, Harry had another question for me. Do I know any of the people who were at the lodge that night? When I told her that I had the names and addresses of everyone who was there, her eyes lit up. After our training, she stopped by my house, and I gave her an envelope with 12 registration documents for cars. She grabbed them and kissed me on the cheek. There are 15 types of lawyers. Harry was a scandal lawyer. She tried to explain it to me, but I just smiled and asked her what it would cost me. All I got in return was another kiss on the cheek. 3 days later, my daughter Linda called me. Donna called her to see if she knew where I was. There was some kind of problem at Donna's workplace, and she was at the center of it. She was unhappy and wanted to talk to me immediately. Linda refused to tell her anything. I wonder if Glenn got those valve rods? I called Harry and said I'd pick her up in 20 minutes. Her office was in a fashionable shopping mall. It was cute, but not too flashy. Harry had never seen a Challenger. The question of my car ownership has never been raised before. The sound of the engine preceded my arrival and led to the appearance of several curious onlookers from her office as she got out to the car. I walked around to open the door for her and smiled at all the onlookers. Harry laughed as she got into the car. "Well played, William. Well played. I suppose you'll want an engagement ring now?" "All in good time. Do not rush." I kept the Challenger under control until we crossed the Tennessee River. Then I started to let her open up a little bit. Highway 72 leading to Huntsville is a good stretch of road, but not the best place to show off. We sat in the dreamland for 2 hours. "William, all the people who were at the lodge that night were served today." "What do you mean?" "This is a trial. The actual term is malicious behavior that contributes to the destruction of a marriage. Does this really exist? It seems that all the required categories have been met. Their behavior was deliberate, it was extreme, and it caused you severe emotional distress. That must be why my wife was upset." By that time, each of us had a piece of ribs in front of us. The conversation slowed down a bit. Harry had just finished sucking on the last rib when she looked up. "What do you mean your wife was upset?" "My daughter Linda called me today and said that Donna needed to talk to me. There was a big problem at work, and she somehow got involved in it. I don't know anything else. Glenn Simpson and the Gilbert Company are being sued for $1 million. The remaining 11 people are sued for $100,000 each. I'm not trying to be smart, but do you think it's going to work?" "Of course. Maybe it's not as simple as it seems, but I think a few interesting things could happen." I wanted another bottle of beer, but I couldn't take the risk because of the long drive home. Harry could take a chance and enjoyed gloating while drinking beer. I was feeling a little excited when we left the restaurant, so I casually asked Harry if she wanted to rent a room and come back in the morning. "I would love to, but I can't. We can leave early if you want." "That's not the point. Let's just leave now. I'll explain it to you on the way home." The car was quiet for the first 20 minutes, and then it started to open up. It seems that 8 years ago, Harry weighed almost 150 kilograms. She decided to go on a diet and exercise instead of having bypass surgery. She lost 70 kilograms. Unfortunately, she had 10 kilograms of flabby skin. It took 5 surgeries to remove the excess flesh, and now she has scars all over her body. Harry is a brave and outspoken woman, but she admitted that she was very shy about her scars. She avoided dating and any contact with male friends. For some reason, she felt comfortable with me, but she didn't know why. I dropped her off at the house, walked her to the door and kissed her lightly on the cheek. She thanked me for dinner, and when I left, there was a small tear in her eyes. We continued our platonic dates. It seemed to suit both of us. My supermarket seemed to be popular with the locals. In less than 2 years, they opened 2 more stores and were looking for new ones. The owners were serious when they offered me a full-time inventory manager position in all 3 divisions. However, they insisted that I become a permanent employee, which meant that I had to act completely legally. At this point, it didn't seem to matter anymore, so I agreed. Harry was happy, so I was happy too. A few more weeks have passed. I didn't hear from my daughters for quite a while, and then I got a short text message on my phone. Mom was fired. This made the situation a little more complicated. Now I had a steady job with a decent salary, and Donna was no longer working. At that moment, I was afraid that I would end up getting involved in a divorce. Then it got even worse. "William, I have some good news for a change." Harry was serious, and I was all ears. 3 of the 11 people we sued have agreed. What does this mean? Since we only sued for $100,000, their insurance companies advised them to just go ahead and pay it off, avoiding any public litigation. It was covered by their insurance, so it wasn't a big personal loss for them. "You mean we could get some money out of this?" "William, I've already received 3 checks. There may be more." Do you think this could have something to do with Donna's dismissal? I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Will it ruin my divorce? Have you applied yet? No, not yet. I was going to ask you to help me with this. Harry had a really big smile on his face. William, pack a small bag and prepare the Challenger. We're going on a trip to see your wife. We will leave early on Thursday morning. I was smiling now. We left at 6 in the morning and checked into the Sheraton Hotel 10 hours later. Challenger was pleased. I called Linda and asked her to invite Donna and Laura to lunch at the Reading Motor in the next day. The dinner conversation was a little awkward. Choosing from the Red Lobster menu was fun, and we ended up spending more money than we expected. We didn't care because it was kind of a celebration. Our conversation was varied and confusing. Why? We were both careful to avoid the elephant in the room. We spent our first night together. We've been friends without any benefits for over a year. The last thing I wanted to do was make her feel uncomfortable. Although I won't go into the details of this evening, I will say that it was far from as traumatic as we expected. We were both a little out of it, but we managed to get through it with the expected results. She seemed relieved that I didn't feel disgusted, and I was happy that it wasn't nearly as bad as she made me believe. We were a couple of lucky fools. We had a brunch in the morning. Donna and the girls were waiting at the table when we arrived. I was wearing one of my new sports coats with a dark turtleneck. I looked good. Harry put on one of her lighter business suits, something like a casual professional one. My wife and my daughters looked at me in amazement. Donna, Linda, Laura. This is Harriet Parker, my confidant and lawyer. Harriet. My wife Donna and daughters Linda and Laura. It was awkward, but it was the best thing I could do. Before we could get into any pointless chatter, a waiter appeared to take orders for drinks. I'm not hungry. If you don't mind, I'll just have a coffee. Donna broke the silence first. I quickly looked around the table and came to the same conclusion. Why don't you just bring us 5 cups of coffee and leave the pot on the table? The waiter nodded, and everyone seemed relieved by this decision. It's nice to see you again, Bill. Could you tell us about what you've been doing lately? Donna grinned slightly when she said that. I'm just working and giving you the freedom to find yourself, or whatever you're doing. Harry kicked me lightly under the table. I needed you, and you left me. Maybe you needed someone, but it wasn't me. Mom, Dad, stop it. I'm sure you didn't arrange this meeting to sit and snark at each other. Dad, what are we here for? Linda was very persistent. I saw that it would be a very short meeting. I was at a loss. I looked at Harry for some hint of how to proceed. She ignored me, but took over the conversation. Harry reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. She handed it across the table to Donna. Mrs. Smith, this is a divorce petition. I think you'll find it very fair. I suggest you take this to your lawyer and ask him to review it. Laura and Linda both looked surprised. It was easy to see that they weren't expecting this. However, Donna had a big smile on her face. She didn't take the envelope from Harry, but reached under the table and took one out of her purse. You're a dumb jerk. I divorced your pathetic ass 8 months ago for desertion. You never got a copy because I didn't know where to send it. This is final. Everything you have here is worthless. You don't have anything I want anyway. Her smile turned into a wide grin. The waiter returned with our coffee and a full cup to set the table, just as Donna was getting up. She smiled at Harry with me and gave the girls a strange look before leaving. She left both envelopes on the table. Dad, can we all stay for lunch? I heard they have a really delicious custard pie here, Laura said. Harry and I had a little laugh and asked the waiter to bring the menu. Harry, Laura, and Linda had a great lunch and chatted. It seemed to me that I was eating alone. I've never understood women very well. All the girls exchanged phone numbers and promised to keep in touch. Back in the room, I started packing. William, I thought we were going to stay one more night. We'll spend the night, but not here. Hurry up and pack your things. An hour and 30 minutes after that, we were in Elkton, Maryland. 30 minutes later, Harriet Parker became Harry Smith. We spent the night in Luray, Virginia. I wanted to go further, but it didn't work out. We have a house with a garage for 3 cars. That's another story. The girls said that Donna had a seizure when she found out that I had received $2 million from the Gilbert Company. Donna moved to Iowa. I don't know why.